So, good morning everyone for coming today. I know it is a little bit less crowd because some other event is going out of OZCF, but this will be, believe me, this will be a very informative session. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all today to this very important and insightful seminar hosted by Chapel Ridge Funeral Home. We deeply appreciate your presence as it reflects a genuine commitment to understanding and making informed decisions about the future, not just for yourself, but for those we love. A special thank you to Eric Tapenden, the owner of Chapel Ridge Funeral Home, and his manager, Mark Vandemish, for taking out the time and who graciously joined us today to share their expertise and valuable information on funeral pre-planning. Their knowledge and guidance will undoubtedly help us navigate this often overlooked conversation with clarity and confidence. Planning ahead allows us to ease the burden on our loved ones during life's most challenging moments and ensures that our personal wishes are honored with dignity and respect. Today's seminar is a wonderful opportunity to ask questions, gain insights, and explore the many options available to us. And of course, let's not forget, Chapel Ridge Funeral Home has also provided food. So please feel free to enjoy as we engage in meaningful discussions. Once again, thank you all for being here. We look forward to an informative and engaging session. Please, I request everybody that if you have any doubts or any questions, please ask them because you will get the information firsthand instead of asking me later on. So please, no question is wrong or stupid or anything. Please ask any questions you have to them. I would now call upon Eric to please come and brief us. Thank you, Eric. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Hosheng. It is an honor and privilege to be with you here today. And I must say, what a beautiful, beautiful facility you have here. I think I may convert because I would love to come here more often. This is absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I was teasing someone at the back earlier because this is just like my church. If you want to sit at the back, you have to come early. If you come a little later, you have to sit at the front. So we're delighted to be here and share information with you today. And I have to tell you, our purpose today is to be informative and educational, not to sell you anything. So this subject, of course, is for some people a very sensitive subject. It's not something that we want to talk about all the time. One gentleman and I were talking and he said, you know, the last time we came to one of your presentations, we brought our adult children. That was a mistake because they told us not to do this. And I said, well, of course, adult children don't want to talk about your funeral. They think that that's distasteful to talk about your funeral, or they don't want to contemplate it, other than maybe executing the will. But so we're happy to be here today, though, to explain as much as we can, not only about our funeral home, Chapel Ridge, but about the subject of pre-planning. We have packages for you today, and so in your package, the presentation that I'm going to walk you through, rather than using slides, it's a paper copy here. And so when we get to that part of the subject, we'll flip through the slides, and you can follow through on that if you want to, or you can just keep it tucked away. But you don't need to make notes, because everything that we talk about today is in the package. And actually, in addition to that, everything that is in that presentation is in paragraph form in this burgundy-colored booklet. So we have lots of resource material for you. And today we're not going to talk about wills and powers of attorney, just in the interests of time and because we didn't bring our lawyer friend with us. But there are two documents in here, two booklets that have some very helpful information. One, some tips about preparing wills and powers of attorney. Our urging for you is to do that through a lawyer. It makes a lot of sense to do it through a lawyer rather than to use a will kit yourself, just to be sure that your will is challenge-proof and that it crosses all the T's and dots all the I's of what makes a will legal and enforceable. There's also a booklet here about how to help your executor. If you've ever been an executor for someone who has passed away, you know how much work it is. And so this is a way of helping gather all the things that you need to gather in a binder or in a file folder or in a shoebox, so that your executor doesn't have to scurry around and look to locate everything that they will need in order to help execute your will. So those are our resource documents that we have for you today. We have some information about Chapel Ridge and about our new crematorium, which is just 10 minutes north of Chapel Ridge. Chapel Ridge is on Woodbine Avenue, just north of Highway 7. We've been there for 27 years. It's family owned. I started it back in 1999. We're still there. We expanded. We have a beautiful 18,000 square foot facility. If you've been there, as you were there this past week or last week, you know that it's a beautiful, bright facility, lots of natural light. We have a chapel that seats 300 if needed, another that seats 200, and a smaller one in case you don't have any friends. Some families are very small, so we have 3 different sizes of rooms. The price is the same no matter which room you use. It's just a matter of being able to book it when you need it. We built a new crematorium, though, because for the last 25 years we've been using someone else's crematorium, and in order to serve families more seamlessly, we wanted to build our own. So we built one just 10 minutes north at Stouffville Road in Woodbine, very close to the off-ramp from the 404. And it's a beautiful facility. There's a brochure in here. We call it North Toronto Crematorium. It's got pictures of the facility, a chapel that seats 150, gorgeous all-glass wall facing east, witnessing rooms that are state-of-the-art, big screen TVs so that everyone in the chapel can watch the witnessing if necessary. And it's a gorgeous facility. We also have a partner facility in Mississauga called St. John's Dixie. It's got a chapel that seats 250 and an on-site crematorium as well. So you can do everything all in one place if you want to. And we're delighted to serve people from all faiths and cultures. We are probably the most multicultural funeral home in Canada. We have not served a lot in the Zoroastrian community. When we started Chapel Ridge, my goal was to have a funeral home like John Cain had, because I admired John as a funeral director, and I know that John's funeral home, Cain Funeral Home, served in the Zoroastrian community for many, many years. I know that more recently you've been going to places like Lotus. We, of course, have not served extensively in the Zoroastrian community, but we do serve a lot in many of the East Indian communities. I was explaining we have friends from Gujarat and from Goa, from Mumbai, from Kerala, from Tamil Nadu, so we've served a lot in other parts of the Indian community. We serve in the Tamil community, we serve in the African Caribbean community, Filipino community, and of course we're in Markham, so we serve in the Chinese community. But we make a point of wanting to honor everyone's faith and cultural traditions. We also have had a policy for over 20 years that we will always offer the best service at the lowest price. So we guarantee that our prices will be lower. We have made a point of doing business as a high volume, low margin business. So we serve a lot of people, but our margins are very small. We do not upsell people. So you will never hear one of our funeral directors say, "Oh, you must have really loved your mother. You would want the nicest casket for her." We don't, that's not part of our lexicon at all. As long as things are dignified and respectful, you don't need to measure how much you love someone by how much you spend on their casket. You don't. And so we have a package in here. You'll see for the Zoroastrian community. We had a lovely meeting with Tanaz and Dara and Hoshang some months ago, and explained to them how our package would work. So the standard package would be $4,595. If you want to upgrade to a wooden casket, you can do that for $5,000. And it's not a rental casket, it's a standard casket, and that includes everything, including the HST, the cremation fee, the witnessing fee, everything is included. The one thing I'll say again, more about this as we talk about pre-planning, but if you lock in the price, today's price, you never have to pay more. So if you plan on living as I do for at least another 20 years, you know the prices are going to go up over time. Inflation, same with gasoline and groceries and everything else, the prices go up. Funerals are the same, but once you lock in the cost at today's price, your family is guaranteed never to have to pay more. I'll come back and explain that in a little more detail later on. I think that's all of the, we're going to have lunch a little later on. There is a tray of vegetarian sandwiches, if that is your preference. And there are other things. We have some fruit and veggies and so on. You won't be too full necessarily, but you won't starve. So please stay with us for the luncheon and enjoy some food. We'll be happy to be here with you, answer any questions you have. We'll do a little presentation first, and then we'll ask Mark Vandermeersch, who is our new Director of Pre-Planning. And Mark comes to us from another organization, so he's had lots of experience, but he's new with us, and we are thrilled to have him on board. Mark is someone who aligns very much with our values of honesty, integrity, trust, not upselling, providing the highest level of service for a very fair and reasonable price. And so you can trust Mark if you are involved in prearranging with him. We will have a Q&A after I do the presentation, and we'll stay as long as you want us to stay. If your questions are not ones that you want to ask in front of everybody else, that's okay. You can contact Mark, or you can contact me later on and have a more personal, private conversation on the phone or in person, however you would like to do that. And you will know that you're not going to get a sales pitch, you're just going to have your questions answered. I've left on the back counter, beside where the lunch is going to be served, some business cards for our assistant manager, Matthew. Matthew is not with us today because he's manning the funeral home. Saturdays and Sundays are typically our busiest days, so Matthew is there. But I've left some of his business cards. If you're pre-planning, Mark is the guy to talk to. If you have a need for a funeral immediately, like an at-need funeral, if someone in your family passes away and you need to call, you may want to keep one of Matthew's cards. His cell number is there, and he answers the phone 24/7, so you can always reach someone personally. Even our general number is answered 24/7 by a live human being, and so if you call at 3 in the morning and you've had a death, you know that you're going to talk to a person who can answer your questions and serve you right away if you need to. I'm going to do the pre-planning presentation now. You know, when a person passes away, within the first 24 to 48 hours, there are over 75 things that have to be done in order to have a funeral. Just so you know we're not exaggerating, we've actually put a list of, I think, 77 things in there. Now, not all of those 77 things may apply to every family, but it's also not an exhaustive list. And there are a ton of things, gathering information that we need in order to register the death, get the burial permit or the cremation certificate, provide the family with proofs of death for estate purposes, and then all of the decisions that need to be made in order to have a funeral and a cremation. I'm going to ask you for a moment to take your attention away from the slides. I've often heard that the best speakers are good storytellers. And so I'm going to tell you a story in order to make a point. Let's pretend that you have a 21-year-old daughter, and she's been dating a guy for a couple of years, and she really seems to like him, and you do too. So one Sunday evening, you ask your daughter and her boyfriend and the rest of the family to come for dinner, and you're all sitting around the dining room table, enjoying each other's company, and you look down the table and you see your daughter. You're going to be the daughter and her boyfriend today. That's what you get for coming last. So you look at your daughter and you think, aha, something is up. And sure enough, around the time that you're serving dessert, your daughter clears her throat. Mom, Dad, we have an announcement to make. We love each other very much, and we're going to be married. And everyone around the table is so happy. Oh, that's wonderful. We think that's fabulous. We get to plan a wedding. We love you. Welcome to the family. We're so happy for you, dear. And then after everything quiets down, you look at your daughter and you say, oh, when is the big day? And your daughter says, I think we'll get married this Wednesday. And you pick your jaw up off the table and you say, but a wedding is a major life event. You can't plan a wedding in 3 or 4 days. That's outrageous. How long do we take to organize a wedding typically? A year is probably average. 6 months maybe minimum. A year and a half maybe if they're in school. Maybe if the baby is already on the way, 3 months. But normally about a year, because it's a major life event. You have to organize the priest or the minister. You have to organize the chapel, the place where it's going to be held. You have to organize the hall and the food and the flowers and what everybody's going to wear, the invitations. There's so many things to make sure that the major life event is done well. Well, a funeral, of course, is a major life event too. And almost the same number of things have to be done for a funeral as are done for the wedding. You have to have the priest, and you have to have the place where you're going to hold it. You have to organize invitations or posts about where it's going to be and when. And you have to worry about not only what the deceased will wear, but what everyone else will wear to the funeral, and the flowers, and the donations, and all of the details. But because a funeral is a sad event, we tend to put it out of our mind and not think about it and say, well, we don't want to plan that ahead of time because it's sad. It's not something we want to think about. The good news is, though, that about 90% of everything that needs to be done for a funeral can be done ahead of time. It's called funeral prearrangement. And it's relatively easy when you do it ahead of time. There are 3 things that we do in order to prearrange. Number 1, we gather the information that we will need at the time of death to register the death, to get the burial permit, cremation certificate, the proofs of death for the family. Secondly, we talk through with you what it is you want in terms of a funeral, and we document that in a prepaid funeral contract. We itemize it so that everybody in the family knows exactly what's included and what is not. And then thirdly, we talk about if you want to prepay it ahead of time, how do you want to do that? Well, why do people prearrange? Number 1, as Hosheng said earlier, it's a way of making your wishes known to your family. You know, generationally, things change sometimes, and people who are the next generation down don't always necessarily want to honor your traditions. Sometimes they don't even know what your traditions are. I was interested many, many years ago when we began serving in the Chinese community, and we had some second-generation Chinese adult children come in and say, "We would like to arrange a traditional Chinese funeral." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And they said, "We don't know. We just know that to honor our parents, we want a traditional funeral." So some of your children, my children, may do the same. They don't necessarily know what we want, but they want to honor our wishes. So making your wishes known by writing them down and saying, "This is the package we have," put it away with the important things, your important papers, and then the adult children will go, "Whew, now we know what Mom and Dad wanted." I have to tell you, 99% of the time, when people prearrange their funerals with us, 99% of the time, adult children or other relatives will honor those wishes because they want to know what it is that you would have wanted. And it's also a good way of making sure that your children are not subjected to some unscrupulous undertaker talking them into spending more than what you think is appropriate. So when you lock in your wishes and prepay it, it's all taken care of, and your children don't need to be bothered with that. Secondly, I think people prearrange because they want to avoid emotional overspending. Very often, you know, if you go into a funeral home and you are upset, you're not thinking straight, you're sad, you're overwhelmed by grief, or your children are, and they don't know how to respond. It's like, okay, we'll take our lead from the funeral director. And if it's a funeral home that is corporately owned or that has a culture of upselling, then they can be vulnerable to that. So to avoid emotional overspending for your family, it's a way of locking things in ahead of time when people aren't emotional. When people pre-plan, it's one of my favorite things to do at the funeral home is to pre-plan with people because we can actually have a little fun doing it. Nobody's upset, nobody has died yet. We can actually spend some time getting to know each other and just talk about what you want, and you're not weighted down by grief. So third, of course, people pre-plan to reduce the burden on their family, not put them through all the decisions and the paperwork at the time. And last, it just helps, like doing your will and power of attorney and all the other financial plans that you make. It's a way of getting your affairs in order. So pre-planning has been around for a long time. Back in the late 1980s in Ontario, the government of Ontario realized that there was no protection for people who prepaid their funerals. And there was actually an incident down in Belleville, Ontario, where a lot of people went to a funeral home and prepaid their funeral by writing a check to the funeral director, and when they passed away, the money wasn't there. So the government stepped in the late 80s. They passed a new law in 1990 in Ontario And it's a very detailed law that regulates funeral prepayment. I won't bore you with all the details, but there's 3 things from that law that you should know about if you're contemplating prearranging. Number 1, when you prepay a funeral through a funeral home in Ontario, the money doesn't come to the funeral home. It's held by a third-party financial institution at arm's length to the funeral home. And so right from the get-go, the money is held by someone else. It's held in your name. It's your money. You control it. You can pull it out. And the funeral home can't access those funds until we prove A, that you died, and B, that we did the funeral. So right from the beginning, there's protection in place. The second thing, I have to put the microphone here because I'm going to use my hands. The second thing that the law says is that when you prepay a funeral through a funeral home in Ontario, you lock in the cost at today's price. So if you choose a $4,600 funeral, that's what the price of it is, and you pay $4,600, as the price goes up, the value of the funds that you have placed in the insurance company or the trust company gain interest that is at a fixed rate, and that interest accumulates tax-free, so you don't have to pay tax on the growth. And the purpose of the interest is to offset inflation. So that if you buy a $4,600 prepaid funeral today and you pay $4,600, if the price over time goes up to $10,000, your family never has to pay more. You will never pay more than the $4,600 you paid, plus the accumulated interest. And the government went one step further. They said, well, what happens if the cost of the funeral goes up from $4,600 to $10,000, and because interest rates are relatively low, the $4,600 you've put in maybe only comes to $8,000 by the time you die. So there's a $2,000 deficit there. That deficit is not your family's responsibility. It never will be. That's the responsibility of the funeral home. And that's not just in your contract. It's in Ontario law, and it's enforced by the provincial regulator. So that's a really good bit of consumer protection in that law. If the opposite is true, if the $4,600 you put in accumulates to $10,000 and the funeral only costs $8,000 at the time, the surplus goes back to the family automatically. So if there's a surplus, the family gets it back. If there's a deficit, we make it up. We're responsible for that. There's one other thing you should know about the law, and it's, again, I think, a comfort to us from a consumer protection point of view. You might say, well, a trust company or an insurance company is holding the funds. What happens if they go bankrupt, or someone defrauds me of my prepaid funds, or the funeral home closes, or anything you can imagine? Now, those things don't happen very often. But it's a lot of money, and it's your money, so it's a fair question to ask. The government of Ontario has decided to do exactly the same thing with prepaid funeral funds as the government of Canada has done with banks. I was talking to one of your folks here who worked at Bank of Montreal, and you know, when you go in the bank, you see on the door there's a sticker saying, deposits are protected by Canada Deposit Insurance Corporation. So if you make a bank, now banks in Canada don't go bankrupt, so it's really not much of a risk. But you know that your bank deposits are protected by the federal government. They are reinsured by CDIC. The same thing has happened with prepaid funeral funds in Ontario. The Ontario government guarantees the full value of your prepaid funeral plan, so there is no risk. Now, you can prepay all at once if you want to. You can write a check or use your Visa or MasterCard for the $4,600 or the $5,000, whatever options you choose. Or you can pay over 1 year, divide it by 12, and there's no financing cost involved. You can just, from a cash flow point of view, spread it out over 12 months. If you decide you want to make time payments beyond that, from 3 years to 20 years, you can do that. I have to say, though, if you're 87 years old, you can't have a 20-year time payment plan, just so you know. The insurance company that we use says you have to have your time payments finished by age 85. If you want to make time payments and they're going to go beyond age 85, then we would use a trust company instead. The benefit of using the insurance company is that if you have, say, a 10-year time payment plan and unexpectedly you die after 3 years, the insurance company pays for the whole funeral and your family doesn't have to pay the balance. If we use a trust company, it's just like a savings account. And if you pass away before it's fully paid for, then the family has to pay the balance. But an insured plan means that you're protected against premature death. And there's no right or wrong way to do it, whether you make time payments or whether you pay it all at once. It's really a matter of what suits you and your budget and how you want to pay. You know, every once in a while we hear things from people, and I thought I'd mention a few of them to begin with. The first one is people sometimes say, well, I'm too young to prepay my funeral. I'm only in my 30s or my 40s or my 50s. I'm too young to prepay my funeral. Some people, even in their 60s, 70s, 80s, say, I'm healthy, I don't need to prepay my funeral, I'm going to put it off. And, or my kids are going to look after that. You know, a startling statistic is that in Ontario, 30% of deaths occur suddenly and unexpectedly. You hear it on the news every day. Somebody's hit by a car, or somebody has an accident, somebody unexpectedly dies of a heart attack or develops cancer and is gone in 4 weeks. So 30% of the time we don't predict when it's going to happen, and you are really never too young to prepay your funeral. The earlier you do it, the less expensive it is. A, because you're locking in the cost at today's price, and B, because if you have a time payment plan, it's actuarially calculated, and so your payments, if you're in your 80s, are going to be higher than if you're in your 60s. A second thing we often hear is, well, I have life insurance, so I don't need to have a prepaid funeral. I have to tell you, I'm a big fan of life insurance. I have lots of life insurance for a variety of reasons, one of which is I still have a mortgage on my funeral home, not very much, but I have a big mortgage on my new crematorium. And if I were to die tomorrow, I don't want my wife to have to assume that mortgage. And so I have lots of life insurance to help pay that mortgage off. There's lots of reasons why we have life insurance, leaving money tax-free to our children, all kinds of good reasons for why we have life insurance. But I have to tell you, even if your life insurance agent tells you otherwise, using life insurance to pay for a funeral at the time of death is a really bad idea. Number one, life insurance, particularly term insurance, is a fixed amount. And so if you have $10,000 of life insurance and you say, well, that's more than enough to cover my funeral, it is today, but by the time you pass away, it might not be enough. And it's a fixed amount. A prepaid funeral plan has no ceiling. It doesn't matter how much the funeral price goes up, you're always covered. And so prepaying your funeral is a better idea in that case. And there's one other thing that's important. Life insurance doesn't pay out in time for the funeral. Life insurance takes a minimum of 2 weeks to get a payout, and every funeral home that I know of, you have to pay for the funeral at the time the funeral is held. And so having a prepaid funeral makes it seamless. You never have to even think about money at the time of the funeral with the funeral home because it's all covered. The insurance company or the trust company advance the funds to us within days after we show them that we've done the funeral and that you have a prepaid plan. One of the other questions we often get is, well, what good is a prepaid funeral plan here in Toronto if we're traveling? We're back home in India, or we're traveling to the Caribbean, or taking a Mediterranean cruise. What happens if we die while we're traveling? 'Cause a lot of people travel a lot these days, especially now that COVID is over. We're all back traveling again. And there's an add-on to the funeral plan that the insurance company that holds the funds offers, and it's called Journey Home. There's a little brochure in your package that is entitled Journey Home. They used to call it the Worldwide Travel Plan, which is probably a better name. But the Journey Home plan says this: if you are traveling anywhere more than 100 kilometers from your home and you die, they will bring you home for free. Let's say my wife and I were taking a Mediterranean cruise and we're on the Greek island of Santorini. How many of you have been to Santorini in the Greek islands? It's a beautiful island. If you're going to die, it would be a great place to die. Except that if I died there, my wife doesn't speak Greek. She does speak French, but she doesn't speak Greek. And so she would have to find some way of getting my body back home. And of course, they would kick her off the cruise ship because they don't keep dead bodies on cruise ships for very long. So the travel plan that is offered here, first of all, there's no medical underwriting. So it doesn't matter if you have a pre-existing condition, like your travel medical insurance says, you know, if you have a heart condition before you go and you die of a heart attack, you may not be covered by your travel medical insurance. In this case, there's no medical underwriting. If you die away from home, they'll bring you home for free, period. Secondly, there's no limit. So if you die in Australia and it costs $20,000 to ship your body home, they cover everything. Thirdly, they cover it all up front. You don't have to put it on all the expenses on your credit card and claim it back. The agency that does the repatriation covers everything right up front. And fourth, probably the most important thing, is they do all the work. So they would deal with the hospital, they would deal with the local funeral home anywhere in the world, they would deal with the airline, and they also, by the way, cover the cost of the travel companion rebooking their flights home, which is a really good, generous arrangement. They would deal with the Canadian consulate, which isn't in Santorini, it's in Athens. And they would deal with the local government and all of the fees and permits and certifications that have to be done to ship a body. So it's a really good plan. My experience is that people who try to use the body repatriation clauses of a travel medical plan are usually disappointed, because there's usually a maximum of $5,000. It costs an average of about $12,000 to ship a body from one continent to another, and they don't do all the work. So this is a really good add-on. It's $595. You pay it once. You don't pay it every year or every time you travel. And you can add that on to your prepaid funeral. If you don't travel, there's no point getting it. If you don't travel a lot, it's probably pointless. But if you travel a fair bit, it's a good thing to have. Like any insurance, you hope that you never have to use it, but it's good peace of mind to have it. So that is our presentation on pre-planning. What I'd like to do before we have lunch is I'd like to open it up to question and answer, and I'm going to ask Mark, our new manager of pre-planning, to come on up with me. And if you have questions, we would be delighted to answer them. Yes, sir.
Just let me know, last 5 years, How much is the impact of the increase in the funeral cost?
So, on average, the research has been done since 1945. Post-war, on average, funeral costs roughly double every 10 years. So in a 5-year period, it likely goes up an average of 50%. So you're way ahead of the game. If you prepay, you're way ahead of inflation because your plan will grow, but it won't grow at 50% in 5 years. But you're covered against inflation when you prepay. Sir, yes.
Regarding the casket,
Yes.
you mentioned a price of 1,590.
Yes.
And the other one is a little bit more expensive. What is the difference between the two?
So there are 1,000 different caskets. You know, it's it's like buying a car. You know, there are so many makes and models. The base casket that we use in this plan is made of particle board, and it is cloth covered. It has a white crepe interior. It's perfectly acceptable. Many of the folks that we have similar plans with, in the Indian community, for example, they would use that casket, the simple cloth-covered casket. Some people like to be a little more North American and say, well, we'd really like to have a wood casket. And so one of our more basic wood caskets is this one that is shown here. It's called the Lyra, and so it's a basic wood casket. And of course, it's more expensive for us to buy, so it's about $500 more for the client if they want to have that casket. Yes.
I have a few questions.
Yes.
So what is this cremation witnessing charge? What is that?
So if you go to the crematorium and you want to see the casket loaded into the cremation retort, to witness it and have a family member ceremonially push the button, that is what is called cremation witnessing.
And if you don't
We-
want it, is that price removed?
Yes, so the $200 would be removed from the plan if you don't want witnessing. I'll give you some context for that. About 70% of the families that we serve at Chapel Ridge choose cremation. The other 30% choose burial. Of the 70% who choose cremation, about 70% of them choose to witness the cremation. So the tradition is from their homeland or from their culture or their faith that the family goes, and it may be a large number of people go to the crematorium, into the chapel area. 6 or 7 people can go into the witnessing room, immediate family members, and instead of, like back home, lighting the funeral pyre, you ceremonially press the button, you stay for 10 or 15 minutes, and you do final prayers at the crematorium. So that's what the witnessing charge is for. And the reason it's charged is because the use of the facility and scheduling the cremation at a particular time.
These Zoroastrians don't have visitation. We have the funeral directly.
Yes.
But you are putting up a charge of 150, 700 for visitation.
So,
We don't have.
oh, yes, I can repeat the questions. He said, we Zoroastrians don't have visitation, but you have a charge for visitation. So, first of all, again, some context. I understand about the visitation, and that's not part of your tradition. Basically, the package that we offer you is about $9,600 retail, and we're offering it for less than half of that. So you get more than a 50% discount. But the package includes the standard same-day package that we offer, which means if you want to have a 2 or 3 hour use of the chapel, if you use that entirely for the ceremony and then you go to the crematorium for the witnessing, you can use it just for your ceremony, or if you want to greet your visitors first a little bit, you can do that, which sometimes is called visitation. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Exactly is the automotive needs.
Okay, so when a person, yeah, it's funny the language people use. It's like bankers. Like bankers, they have their own lingo for the things they provide. The question was, what are automotive needs? So when a person dies, the first thing we have to do is to go and transfer the body into our care, whether it's from your home, from a hospital, from a nursing home. And so we have a specially equipped van that is used as a transfer vehicle to transfer the body into our care. Secondly, we have what we sometimes call a lead car or an administrative vehicle that we use to run around and do all of the chores associated with organizing the funeral, registering the death, and all of that stuff. And the third is the funeral coach, or sometimes called a hearse, and that is to transfer the body to the crematorium if it's off-site. Certainly taking the body from our preparation facility, which is in Markham, to our crematorium, if that's where the service is being held, we would use a funeral coach to make it a dignified transfer. So 3 vehicles that we use routinely, and again, it's part of the package, so if you say, well, I don't think I want to pay for blah, 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 you know what, you're getting more than a 50% discount on the package, so taking things out isn't normally what we do. Yes, sir.
What happens if the funeral home closes?
That's a great question. Just the question is, what happens if the funeral home closes? It doesn't happen very often because funeral homes are a big investment, and so most of the time funeral homes don't close. However, the government of Ontario has foreseen that, and we've seen it happen. There was one in Scarborough, a little one that was operated by a Caribbean woman on Eglinton Avenue, and it closed after a while. If you prepay your funeral through a funeral home, first of all, if the funeral home even changes ownership, even if it doesn't close, but it changes ownership, then the new owner of the funeral home has to write to every prepaid customer and offer them the choice of 3 things. Get all your money back plus interest, transfer to another funeral home, or the new owner has to honor the terms of the contract, and you can keep it there. If the funeral home closes, actually the provincial regulator, the Bereavement Authority of Ontario, takes over the prepaid funds and offers people the ability to transfer it to any other funeral home or to get a full refund. So the province has been very diligent about making sure that people's funds are protected in that regard. I have to tell you, Chapel Ridge has been around for 27 years. We're not planning on closing. I have a son who works in the business with me, and of course my adopted son, Mark. So we have a great young staff. Some of them are older too, but who will be around for many years to come. And we're the busiest funeral home in Ontario. There's no reason for us to close. So, but you never know. I know there's talk about a funeral home in Toronto that may be selling or may be closing. But if you have prepaid funds with them, you don't need to worry. Something you should know, because I know this has come up from time to time. If you've already prepaid your funeral at another funeral home, it's the easiest thing in the world to transfer. If you say, well, okay, I'm convinced, Eric, I think I'd like to do business with Chapel Ridge, you can transfer your prepaid funeral from Lotus or Brampton or Ajax or Ogden's or Highland or anywhere else you may have it, by filling out a one-page form called an assignment of benefits form. And it goes to the insurance company and they reassign your plan from the old funeral home to our funeral home. It's a simple thing. You don't have to go back to the old funeral home and, with your tail between your legs and say, I'd like to transfer my plan away from you. You never have to have contact with them. And the person who you bought it from also doesn't lose their commission. So we don't get a new commission when you prepay, when you transfer a prepaid plan to us. It's a simple thing. And, you know, let's say you paid $5,500 at another funeral home for exactly the same package as we offer for $4,600. If you've paid it in full, we can do one of two things. We can either apply to the insurance company to get you your $900 refund by transferring it to us, or you can leave it in the plan, and at the time of death, the $900 plus interest would be accrued to the estate. So you can do it either way. Yes?
So how much is the wait time when somebody dies? How soon can you take them in?
When someone dies, how soon can we do the funeral? So typically in Ontario, it's about a 48-hour minimum process to get the death registered, to get the body transferred, to get the coroner to sign off, because when people cremate, the coroner has to sign off. On occasion, we have done it more quickly, but normally it's a minimum of 48 hours. At the same time, there is no rush, because if people say, well, we have people coming in from the States, or we have people coming in from another country, can you hold the body for 2 weeks till everybody gets here and gets a travel visa? Yes, you can. You can wait, and we don't charge extra for holding the body for a reasonable period of time. If you want to leave the body with us for 6 months, there might be an additional charge, but a few weeks, there's no additional charge with us. Many funeral homes charge a daily rate for that. Sometimes there's an issue with hospitals. So I've had many over the years where the family comes and says, you know, the kids are here from California and BC and Halifax, and they're going back on Sunday. We want to have the funeral on Saturday, and it may be Thursday now, and we call the hospital and say, please let us know when, you know, Mr. Shaw is going to be released. And they say, well, we'll let you know. And then by Friday, we still haven't heard, and we know we need to prepare the body and so on. So I've had to, you know, in the middle of the night, phone the hospital executive on call and say, hey, get the lead out. This family is having their funeral on Saturday, and it's not fair of you to just be tying them up in your hospital bureaucracy. So sometimes there are delays at that end. So on average, it's a minimum of 48 hours. Yes, sir.
Sorry, one second.
Yes.
To answer your question, further to what you said, what Eric said, we have requested them that in our religion, the funeral should be done within 3 days.
Yes.
So they will try their utmost best to give us a chapel, so within 3 days.
3 days is not normally a problem. We talked about that when we met. It's not normally a problem.
Just adding to what he said.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Sir, a couple of questions. One is the insurance company that you're dealing with, which our prepaid amount is put into,
Yes.
do they annually deal with you by sending you a statement which says, we have your money, this is the interest on it, blah, 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 or you don't hear from them?
So the answer to that is yes, they send us a statement. One thing that I always try to encourage people to think as they're thinking about this, you're not buying an investment. You're buying a funeral. So regardless of what happens to your money, you have a funeral in the bank. And some people say, well, what's the interest rate that I'm getting? And say, the interest rate is way more of concern to me because I'm guaranteeing to give you the funeral regardless of what the interest rate is. But the law in Ontario says this. It says you can ask once a year how much is in your fund. You can ask for a statement. Probably less than 0.5% of our prepaid clients ask. But if you have an analytical brain and you want to know, you're entitled to ask once a year, and we will give you a statement that comes from our statement from the insurance company. Yes?
I was not concerned about the interest or anything.
Yes.
I was just curious as to, you knew that the money was there, that's all.
Yes, exactly. And by the way, just so you know, annually we have to have an external full audit of all the prepaid funds that is reported to the Bereavement Authority of Ontario. So we have an outside accounting firm do a full audit, not just a review, but a full audit of the prepaid funds to be reported to the regulator. So it's very highly regulated.
Two quick questions.
Yes?
One is floral arrangements, flowers.
Yes.
I don't see it listed here. Is that an extra cost, and approximately how much it is?
Yes.
Second question is, if after the funeral you want to have some sort of reception,
Yes.
where you can have serve sandwiches or
Sure.
coffee, whatever,
Sure.
is there a special area where you can have it, and how much would that cost?
Yes. So the first question, none of our packages include floral arrangements. We have found it easiest and best and less expensive for the family if they deal directly with a florist. And so we leave that to the family. Flowers are not included. Secondly, yes, we have lovely reception facilities. If people want to have a reception either at the funeral home or at our crematorium or our partner facility in Mississauga, if it's easier to have it right on site before everybody goes away somewhere else, we're happy to do that. You can bring in your own catering if you prefer. There's no extra charge for that. You can bring in your own food that is just friends and neighbors providing it, or we can cater it for you like we are the lunch today. You can purchase the catering through us. There is a charge for the room rental for the reception. We have two different size rooms. One of them I think is 1,000 and the other's 1,500, something like that, for a 3-hour period. And that includes us supplying coffee, tea, water, punch, dishes, cleanup. If you bring in your own catering, our staff will help set up, clean up, serve, and there's no additional cost. That's included in the room rental. Yes, you've been waiting, Mark says, for a while.
Do you agree for the death certificate and all the other formalities that are to be done after death, or cancelling of some cards, or?
Yes. Yes, so do we arrange for the death certificate and for all of the paperwork formalities? Yes, we do. We register the death. We get the coroner's cremation certificate and the burial permit. We provide the family with an unlimited number of proof of death certificates for estate purposes. So every bank, every insurance company, Service Ontario, Service Canada, everybody wants a death certificate. We provide you with signed and sealed originals, as many copies as you need. We automatically apply for the Canada Pension death benefit and survivor benefit on your behalf. If you want us to do more than that, you can either use a private agency that we recommended called Peacehold that will help you with 300 different things, or we can help you with a few of those things too, canceling cards. We automatically cancel the social insurance number included in the package price.
Could you give us the details of that?
Yes, so one of the documents in the package that identifies some of that is the one called How to Help Your Executor, and that has a list of a lot of the things that have to be done afterwards. I'm going to go to the back here, this gentleman here. Yes?
Thank you, Eric. I had met you with my family about 5 or 6 years back.
Yes.
With my
Yes, I remember.
home. I had my son.
You don't need to try again. Go ahead and ask your question now.
I had my son and the family, and that is one of the reasons why this decision was postponed.
Yes.
But I must say, you and your funeral home have been consistent. At that time, there was one Mr. Jordan, I think.
Jordan, yes.
And what you have said today is more or less what you had said 5 or 6 years back.
Yep.
So I do believe every word that you say.
Thank you.
Just trying to refresh my memory from then. Once we sign up with you,
Yes.
what happens if we move
Yes.
from one province to another? That is,
Yep.
of course, more simple.
Yep.
But supposing we have a change of mind and we go back to our home country or relocate somewhere else,
Yep.
I think one of the things that you might need I think one of the things that you might need is for our forwarding address. And what do we do if we are in another location permanently?
Yep.
And you know, I was about 79, 80 when I first met you.
Yes.
I'm 85 now. I'm
Okay.
closer to my creator.
We're not ready for you yet. Hold on.
And since you say that, I have no worries. I
Yes.
believe death is a celebration.
Yes.
And I don't believe in funeral ceremonies. I know I have my head priest sitting over here, and he may not like this, but I believe that is a celebration, and I would like to actually join where he finished that visitation which you mentioned, you know, if it's
Yep.
there along with the funeral. I would rather entertain all those who come over there and celebrate with me.
Let me address your question about moving and other countries. If you move anywhere in Canada, it's, again, the easiest thing in the world to transfer your plan to another funeral home. What you have to be careful about is if you transfer to another funeral home, they may or may not honor our discounted price. If you move to a funeral home, and somebody said they have a son who's in Calgary. Who was that? Yes. And so I had a friend who prepaid with us and who moved to Calgary, and he said, I'd like to transfer my funeral plan, but I checked with a couple of funeral homes, and they're more expensive. So they told me I'd have to pay another $2,000 or $3,000 to up. And I said, I will help you find a funeral home in Calgary who will honor our price. And so I made a few calls, and they did that. And he's moved to Calgary permanently. He won't be coming back to Toronto. We had a lady who lived in Markham and prepaid with us, and she was in her 90s. And she said, I live with my son now. My son has been transferred to Vancouver. So I think I would like to transfer my prepaid funeral plan to a funeral home in Vancouver. And I said, no problem. I can help you find a funeral home that will honor our price if that's what you decide. But I said, you may want to think twice before you transfer your plan. Because if your son was transferred to Vancouver today, maybe a few years from now he will be transferred back to Toronto, and you'd have to move your plan again. It's a lot of extra paperwork. So if you left your plan with us and you died, the funeral home in Vancouver can contact the insurance company directly and be paid directly because, again, it's not Chapel Ridge's money, it's her money. She said, well, I'm pretty sure at the stage of life I'm at, I will die before he gets transferred anywhere else. And so we transferred her plan to Vancouver. 3 years later, her son was transferred back, and she ended up in a nursing home in Markham, and she said, a little sheepishly, Eric, I think I need to transfer my plan back to you. If you live in another country, if you go back home, you can either take your money out and keep it and use it wherever you're going to be, or you can leave the plan in place. We've had this happen many times for people in India, in the Philippines, in Egypt, where they leave their plan in place here. When the death occurs, all we need is a death certificate from the jurisdiction where the death occurred. We give it to the insurance company and they pay the family directly the full amount of the death benefit, including interest.
So subsequent to this conversation that we had,
Yes.
I think it might be a better idea to continue with the travel plan, you know, which you have.
Yep.
And get the body back, because I might move back to India, but not my son.
If your family, yeah. The one condition of the travel plan is they will bring the body back to wherever you are living. If you're visiting India for a couple of months and you die there, they'll bring your body back to Toronto. But if you actually move your residence, then they'll not bring you back to Toronto. Okay, we had a couple more questions. Sir, yes.
I have registered with another funeral home.
Yes.
Now that I have heard you, I might want to transfer.
Yes.
So you said there is a form I have to fill out.
Correct. So there's a form that you would fill out, and
We would fill out for you.
Yes, I understand, but my question is, do I get any confirmation from you in writing that you have transferred the...
Yes.
oh, absolutely. No, it's a thorough process. After that form is filled out, you'll get documentation showing the transfer and that you now hold your pre-arrangements with Chapel Ridge. Absolutely, yeah. No, great question.
You get a new certificate from the insurance company and you get a new contract from us.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it's confirmed both ways.
This gentleman.
What happens in the event of your body is donated to the, then what happens in that?
Oh, like a donation? Yeah, you know what?
Yep.
Eric's
So there's two kinds of donations if you donate your body. You can donate your organs. You know, you fill out the thing with your driver's license and you say, I'd like to donate my organs. The number of times that that actually happens is minuscule because you have to be in the right place at the right time, and the recipient has to be. If they're taking out your liver or your corneas or whatever, it doesn't happen very often. And at the time, they will always confirm that with your family. If you're donating organs, you still need to have a funeral because there's still a body left. So our job is to patch up the body and make it look relatively normal, even though they may have cut you open or taken your cornea out or whatever. But donating your body to an anatomy department of a university, so people sometimes do that to the medical school at U of T, they sign up. When you sign up to donate your body to a medical school, first of all, again, it doesn't happen that often that they actually accept you because they have a limited number of bodies they can use because they put you on a table and have the medical students work on you as if they're working on a live body in a hospital. So there's a limit to how many they can use, and they tend to like younger, healthier specimens than you and I. No disrespect intended. But if you do donate your body to science, to an anatomy school at university, then they will transfer your body. They will do the cremation, and they will have a ceremony quarterly for all of the people whose bodies have been used. If you have a prepaid funeral, then most of the time people still want to have a ceremony associated with that. So you could still use your prepaid funeral for the ceremony. If we didn't do embalming of the body or provide a casket or those other things, those would be deducted and refunded to the family, but you could still have the ceremony with the priest and so on. If you don't end up using it at all, if you say, nope, we're not going to have a funeral at all, then all of the money is given back to the family with interest because it's your money, not ours.
Thank you, sir.
Yes?
Do we get any tax benefits?
Wait, tax benefits?
Tax benefits?
I don't think there's ever been sorry, we'll repeat it. He's asking if there are any tax benefits for pre-planning. For pre-planning?
So only a very small one. If you pre-plan and prepay the $4,600 and you're going to live for another 30 years, that's my estimate for you. That's what I'm estimating, 30 years. You can hold me to that, 30 years. Then the money accumulates interest, and the interest accumulates tax-free. So it's like having money in a RIF or an RRSP or a TFSA. You don't pay any tax on the growth in the fund. That's the only tax benefit. You can't deduct your prepaid funeral as a medical expense or anything like that because it's not. So it's after-tax income that you pay with, but the growth accumulates tax-free. No, the growth in the fund, as I said before, the growth in the fund that goes up as the price goes up, the growth in the fund is to offset inflation. If the fund grows faster than inflation on the funeral, then the surplus goes back to the family. But if you're dead, you won't care. So
It looks like we are here for an investment seminar and not a prepaid test.
So that's, yeah, it's a good question though. We get lots of questions like that, and this gentleman's question about a statement or whatever. Just remember, you're prepaying a funeral. So you're going to get a funeral for sure, and you won't have to pay more for it. That's the main financial issues to remember. Okay, we're going to have lunch after this. We'll have 2 more questions. Just let me get this gent first because he hasn't had one yet.
3 questions.
Yes.
First of all,
In Mississauga?
Yeah.
That's at Dundas and Cawthra. St. John's Dixie is the facility name.
Okay. And do they offer the same package? Will they honor the same package?
Identical, yeah.
It's our package. We use their facility. So they are not a licensed funeral home. They are a licensed crematorium and chapel. They're actually owned by the Anglican Church of Canada, but they allow anyone to use the facility. We are the funeral home that has the funeral license, so you deal with our package, our staff, our service, our price, but we use their facility. So if you want to prearrange, you don't go to them, you come to us, or we'll come to you. We'll sit down at your kitchen table or meet you at Tim Hortons and do the package. And if you say, we're West End people, or we want to hold the funeral in the West End, we just mark that on the contract.
Okay. The third part is that you don't have a crematorium on your site, right?
Correct. So let's be clear. We have 3 locations. The one that Eric was just talking about on the West End, that's a facility that we operate out of, and that has a crematorium on site. The one just north of us, North Toronto Cremation, that's about 10 minutes north of our facility at 7 and Woodbine. That's a crematorium. Also, you can have your witnessing and services there. And then there's our funeral home proper. That does not have a crematorium, okay? So there's 2 of the 3 have a crematorium and are on site, and our funeral home does not. So we can use the northern one or the western one for the actual cremation. Much of the services would go at the Woodbine 7 location.
Yeah. So basically the visitation and the ceremony, everything would be at your place, and the crematorium is in Mississauga. When you transfer the body to Mississauga, is there a charge?
No, that's included in the price. That's included.
You can have everything at any one of the 3 facilities, except the place in Markham doesn't have a crematorium. But if you decide you want to use the one in Stouffville or the one in Mississauga, everything can be done on those sites. So no problem.
Yeah. So we'll do just one more question, a couple things. We can continue with, you just pull one of us over while we're eating and ask your questions. And we can continue on with this. We just want to get the food going. So let's just do one more question. And then I just wanted to touch on one thing real quick right before your question. There's an evaluation form in everybody's booklets. I'll collect those while you're eating over the next 10, 20 minutes. Make sure to fill that out. And by submitting it, everyone's entered into a draw right here for $200 Visa cards. Okay, and real information, no fake phone numbers. So we'll do a draw for that a little bit later. And I'll just collect them. I'll come around and bother everyone. No rush, but be sure to fill that out when you have a moment. And then the other thing too, if anyone's interested in booking an appointment with me today, I have some smaller gift cards that are just a little bit of an incentive to come and see me at the funeral home. If you do want to come in the next couple of weeks or sometime in September, I have my schedule and happy to see you. So one more question.
If, by the way, if you fill out an evaluation, again, you don't need to be worried about pestering. The only person who's going to see those or contact you would be Mark. If you ask for follow-up, you have questions you want to ask or you want to spend some time talking with him. So, and we'll do the draw. Yes, last question, sir.
Clarification, canceling your SIN number, I believe you cannot do it until the last tax return of the receipt has been completed. And the CRA will do that. But
Yeah, so the CRA still needs your social insurance number because the last tax return isn't completed till the following year. What we do is we report it though so that no one else can use your SIN number in the meantime. So the Service Canada is on notice that your SIN number belongs to a deceased person. Yep. Okay. We're going to take some time to eat now. We have some sandwiches. There's one tray of vegetarian ones. We have some veggies and dip, and I think we probably have some fruit. Please help yourselves. We're delighted to share some repast with you. Mark and I are here. We're here for as long as it takes to answer all your questions. We're going to come around and pick up the evaluations in a few minutes, and before we go, we'll do the draw. We'll have some fun with that. And thank you for your attention. Thank you for coming out for a relatively serious subject and being as engaged as you were. We're very grateful. Thank you for having us.
1 minute. My concluding remarks will be, first of all, I would like to thank you, Eric and Mark, both of you, for taking the time and explaining in detail the pre-planning funeral arrangement. Thank you so much. And a very good point to note that I really like your information package. It is, which has been created taking everything into consideration and gives us a view at a glance. So thank you for that. And as he said, that as Eric said, we will break for lunch. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Thank you for coming. Yeah, they will be walking around. Thank you.